Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the bestower of mercy. Innal hamdalillah, verily all praise belongs to Allah. Nahmaduhu, we praise Him. Wa nasta'inuhu, we seek His assistance. Wa nastaghfiruhu, we beg for His forgiveness. Wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina, and we seek refuge with Allah from the evil of our own selves. Wa min sayyiati a'malina, and from the evil consequences of our deeds. من يهده الله فلا مضل له. Whoever Allah Ta'ala guides, no one can lead astray. ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. And whoever He leads astray, no one can guide. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. And I openly testify and bear witness that none has the right to be worshipped in truth except Allah. He is alone in that right to be worshipped. وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. And I openly testify and bear witness that Muhammad is His servant and His messenger. Sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. May Allah Ta'ala raise the rank of and grant peace to His messenger Muhammad, as well as upon his family and his companions in their entirety. Amma ba'd. As to what follows, then today is the afternoon of the 23rd day of Dhul Qa'dah in the year 1447 after the hijrah of our messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which corresponds to May the 11th, 2026, as we continue with our weekly session and studying the book entitled The 5 Pillars of a Happy Muslim Home, Scholarly Advice on the Secret of Marital Love and Choosing for the Right Reasons, authored by our beloved and esteemed teacher Abu Suhayla Umar Quinn. Jazahullahu anna khair al-jazah. May Allah Ta'ala reward him on our behalf immensely. And this is our 5 Pillars marriage class that we offer via Al-Masjid Al-Awwal, or the First Muslim Mosque in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It is an online only class. And this week, insha'Allah Ta'ala, we will continue with chapter 1 in the book, but just some housekeeping as usual. We have in our group, that is our 5 Pillars Marriage Class WhatsApp community, we have our pinned message at the top of the group. In that pinned message, you can access all of the resources for the class. You can access a link in order to order the book. If you are here in Pittsburgh, then you can email 1MM Bookstore. That's books plural, BOOKS, and then store, 1MM Bookstore at gmail.com, in order to place your order for that book and to make arrangements to have that book or to pick that book up at the masjid. Again, that is only if you are here in Pittsburgh. If not, you can order that book on Amazon. That link is available in the pinned message in our WhatsApp group. We also have a variety of other links in that pinned message. Again, if you are in the 5 Pillars Marriage Class WhatsApp community, then you have received that announcement. You have access to it, that pinned message. You can share that with family and friends who are not in the WhatsApp group. They will be able to access all of the material needed for the class by way of that pinned message that you can share. And so we have the link for where they can listen live at Radio 1MM. There's also a chapter by chapter summary by Sheikh Umar Quinn himself on his website of a summary of each chapter in the book. There is our Google form for questions that are related directly to the class. And we have our learner materials. We have our reflective guide, and we have our Wayfinder chart that gives us, shows us how to navigate the reflective guide. And of course, the link for our recorded classes that are archived on Spreaker. All of those links are available in the pinned message in our WhatsApp group again, that can be shared. Tonight, insha'Allah ta'ala, we're going to begin the conclusion of chapter 1, and that begins with the subchapter entitled Anything Valuable Requires Hard Work. Anything valuable requires hard work. That's on page 28 of our textbook. And after we finish this subchapter, which we're actually going to spend 2 or 3 classes on, as it's about 15 pages long. It's a pretty long subchapter. Once we're finished with that, then we invite you to go to page 23 in the reflective guide. And in the reflective guide, there's some questions and some guided questions and some work for you to do to help you reflect upon your current state or the current state of your marriage as it relates to the material that we're going to cover in this subchapter, insha'Allah. So again, the reflective guide is meant for you to engage with and to spend some quiet time with upon completion of a given subtopic in the book. And so we will not finish the entire subtopic tonight, but you can look in the reflective guide and you can begin pondering over it. But it will be more beneficial once we finished all of the classes related to this subchapter of Anything Valuable Requires Hard Work. And so let us begin that subchapter now at this time, insha'Allah. Again, reading from page 28 in the book. Our brother writes here, anything valuable requires hard work. Life is a journey filled with challenges, from birth to death. The family serves as a steadfast pillar through joys and sorrows. As children, we observe the weight of parental responsibilities as spectators, only to eventually bear it ourselves as we raise our families and watch them grow. A side point here, and I think this was mentioned previously, and it's something that I'll mention from time to time, is this shows us, or this speaks to the importance of growing up in a 2-parent household. This speaks to the importance of growing up in a 2-parent household. As our brother mentions here, as children, we observe the weight of parental responsibility. And so how will our children observe that weight? How will they have any kind of appreciation for what their parents go through of toil and responsibility and what it takes in order to fulfill those responsibilities if they're not growing up in a 2-parent household? For sure, whichever parent they grow up with, they're going to get a taste of that. They're going to gain an appreciation of that from the vantage of, for example, living with a single mother or living with a single father. But it's only within the confines of a 2-parent household where that Muslim child can grow up and witness and observe what their father does specifically that's related to his duties and responsibilities to the family, and what the mother does as it's related to her specific duties and responsibilities to the family, and how that mother and father interact in a good way, cooperating with one another in a way to bring benefit to the family on whole. And so we cannot emphasize how important it is for our children to grow up in that kind of nurturing environment, yani the environment of a 2-parent household where you have a Muslim man and a Muslim woman who are committed to their marriage for the sake of Allah, and they are committed to raising believers in Allah Ta'ala's religion, practitioners of Allah Ta'ala's religion. And we ask Allah Ta'ala to bless our families. He continues and he says, marriage, the cornerstone of the family, is essential for preserving faith and securing future generations. It requires unwavering sacrifice, selflessness, and commitment. Now, if you're going through your book and you're someone like me who likes to annotate in the book and highlight things, then for sure that's a sentence that I would highlight and I would take note of. I would underline it. that marriage requires unwavering sacrifice, selflessness, and commitment. Building a strong marriage begins with preparation, as both partners strive to become worthy of each other. It demands continuous effort to foster a lasting, resilient bond, sacrifices that require courage, patience, and resolve. Right? And so from that paragraph, we learn, or we are reminded, that marriage is constant work. Marriage requires unwavering sacrifice. When you get married, you need to know and you need to understand from the onset that there are going to be sacrifices demanded of you, demanded of your time, demanded of your finances, demanded of your energy, right? And you must have an unwavering attitude. You have to have commitment. You have to have real commitment. You have to have patience. You have to have resolve. And you have to be prepared to be selfless. And so many of us in our marriages, we have the opposite of these qualities. Instead of being prepared to have an attitude of commitment, we kind of walk on eggshells in our marriage. We don't know how long we want to stay in the situation. And what I'm saying is some people approach marriage this way. When they get married, they don't have firm resolve to be committed to the situation. It's almost as if they're trying on a garment. I'm just going to try on this marriage and see how it fits. Instead of entering the marriage with this kind of an attitude, being prepared to make sacrifices. Many of us are not prepared to make sacrifices in our marriage. Many of us are selfish instead of being selfless. And so we're always thinking about our own positionality in our marriage, meaning we're always thinking about me first and what's good for me in this relationship. And that only fosters and that only breeds selfishness. But marriage requires the opposite of that. It requires a selfless disposition. You have to be completely ready to sacrifice for your spouse and for your children. Now I'm demanding continuous effort. So it's constant work. And that's very fitting that this passage is in the beginning of a book like this. Because when we get married, we have to understand that it's not going to be a bed of roses. It's not going to be that honeymoon period that's going to last forever. That's not the case. That honeymoon period, that's going to wane. And eventually it's going to go away. And then all you're left with after that are the realities of your lives together. Duties and responsibilities, right? Rights and obligations. This is what you're left with in a marriage as time goes on. And so it's constant work to rekindle that sense of commitment and to foster a marriage that is long lasting, that has daymuma, that has longevity. And so he brings next the statement of Allah Ta'ala in Surah Al-Qasas, the 27th ayah. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu said, قال إني أريد أن أنكحك إحدى ابنتي هاتين على أن تأجرني 8 حجج فإن أتممت 10 فمن عندك وما أريد أن أشق عليك ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصالحين. This is the statement of Allah Ta'ala, what means that he said, and that is Shu'aib, who was the father-in-law of Musa alayhi salam. And as a point of note, as it says in the footnote on page 29, the 44th footnote, meaning the father-in-law of Musa alayhi salam, who resided in the area of Madian. And there's no direct evidence that he was the prophet Shu'aib alayhi salam, who was sent to the people of Madian. But it is common for the man to be referred to as Shu'aib. And so this is the father-in-law of the Prophet Musa alayhi salam, who said to the Prophet Musa, indeed, I wish to marry you to one of my two daughters on the condition that you serve me for 8 years. But if you complete 10, it will be of your own accord. And I do not wish to put you in difficulty. You will find me, if Allah wills, among the righteous. Look at this incredible fa'idah, this incredible point of benefit that Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahullah ta'ala, who died in the year 597, brings as it relates to this ayah, right? He says here, Ibn al-Jawzi raises a profound point about this verse. He said, وَقَدْ أَنْفَقَ مُوسَى عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ مِنْ عُمْرِهِ الشَّرِيفِ 10 سِنِينَ فِي مَهْرِ ابْنَةِ شُعَيْبٍ He said, فَلَوْلَا أَنَّ النِّكَاحَ مِنْ أَفْضَلِ الْأَشْيَاءِ لَمَا ذَهَبَ كَثِيرٌ مِنْ زَمَانِ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ فِيهِ. He said, Musa alayhi salam spent 10 years of his noble life laboring as the dowry for the daughter of Shu'aib. If marriage were not among the most virtuous of matters, a significant portion of the Prophet's time would not have been devoted to it. And prophets here is plural, right? Al-Anbiya. A significant portion of the Prophets, plural, of their time would not have been devoted to it, right? So look at the dowry that the Prophet Musa, who is from the Ulul Azm, from the 5 greatest of the prophets and messengers, right? Look at the dowry that he paid for his wife, who was the daughter of Shu'aib. He spent 10 years of his life laboring in order to fulfill that dowry. Allahu Akbar. And some of us, we can't commit to a dowry of $100. And I'm not talking about those of us who do not have the financial capability of paying a dowry. I'm talking about people who don't take the dowry of a woman seriously. I'm talking about brothers who will agree to pay whatever it is that the woman and her wali ul amr and her wali are asking for, and he just agrees to it. And she says, I want a dowry of $1,500. And because he wants to get married, he disagrees to that. Whether he could pay it or not, he agrees to pay that amount. And then we'll find that this sister, years and years go by, and her dowry has never been paid, not even half of it, not even a respectable portion of it. And there's never been any discussion of it. And the brother never comes and seeks her pardon or even asks her to lessen the amount of the dowry so that he can pay it in good faith. Just complete disconcern and disregard and ignoring her right that is established, which is the right to the mahar, the right to her dowry, as if it's just some kind of insignificant hurdle that he has to pass in order to get married, but he doesn't have to take it seriously, right? It's just some kind of insignificant writing on a piece of paper that he doesn't have to take seriously. Rather, when a man gets married, he needs to seriously consider the mahar of the woman, and he needs to make sure that he is capable of paying her that dowry, because that is her right. And that dowry remains on his neck as his obligation. Even if he divorces her, that dowry remains as his obligation. And it has to be something taken seriously. And look at the example of the Prophet Musa alayhi salam. The dowry of his wife was that he would labor in the service of her father for 10 years. Allahu Akbar. And of course, being from the Anbiya, being from the prophets, this is something that he took seriously. This was an agreement, a contractual obligation that he took seriously. Hence the statement of Ibn al-Jawzi, rahimahullah ta'ala, if marriage were not among the most virtuous of matters, a significant portion of the Prophet's time would not have been devoted to it, meaning not just the Prophet Musa, but his brothers from amongst the Anbiya wa Rusul, including our Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They spent a significant amount of their time devoted to their marriages, not just in paying off the dowries and making sure that the dowry was paid and was respectable, but they spent time with their wives. They were devoted husbands. They were examples for us. And so after mentioning this, our brother writes, marriage is not for the selfish, lazy, or faint of heart. It's hard work, requiring mutual sacrifice and perseverance through decades of shared experiences. The more valuable something is, the greater the sacrifice it demands, and the greater the hardship, the greater the reward. Building a family is no different. It requires both husband and wife to embrace their roles fully. The traditional division of labor, where the husband provides financially and the wife nurtures the home, creates a balance that addresses material and emotional needs. Again, this is something that our children need to witness. They need to observe in a two-parent household firsthand that balance where both the financial, material needs are met, and that is the primary duty and obligation of the father, as well as the emotional needs, which are the primary duties and responsibilities of the wife. And there are at times some intersection there, right? There are sometimes, if you envision a Venn diagram, sometimes these things intersect, but the primary responsibility of the husband is the material needs of his family. The primary responsibility of the wife are the emotional needs of her family. So marriage is not for the selfish, lazy, or faint of heart, right? We have to have that attitude that this is going to be a relationship of mutual sacrifice. It's not fair that one partner demands all kinds of sacrifices to be made for their benefit, right? All kinds of sacrifices from their spouse be made for their benefit, and they're unwilling to sacrifice anything. They're unwilling to contribute, right? That kind of marriage won't last long. And it requires perseverance through decades of shared experiences, right? If we want to have a marriage that's blessed with longevity, then we have to have this kind of mindset. We have to have this kind of framing that we're in it together and we need to persevere together through decades of shared experiences where you can look back with your spouse decade after decade, year after year, and you can reflect upon these shared experiences that have made your family strong. And within that, children were raised. And they were raised in a way that is wholesome according to the Quran and the Sunnah. He says, shifting gender roles has disrupted this balance in modern Western societies. As more women enter the workforce and men take on greater domestic responsibilities, role reversals can lead to confusion and stress. However, traditional roles allow partners to focus on their strengths, ensuring the family thrives practically and emotionally. And of course, those of us who live in the West, then this is something that we witness firsthand. We see this call to gender fluidity, or the bending or the breaking even of gender roles, the dismantling of traditional gender roles, and all of this creates utter confusion and chaos in the family. It upsets the balance. It upsets the natural balance that Allah Ta'ala has legislated the Muslim family be built upon. And so We have to accept our distinctive individual gender roles as it relates to marriage and do our best to fulfill them. And the more that balance is upset, then the greater instability the family's going to have. He says for a marriage to succeed, both partners must embrace their responsibilities with unwavering dedication and a strong work ethic. Again, the greater the sacrifice, the greater the reward. The traditional structure still offers the most effective balance, ensuring the family remains strong, stable, and united. Through hard work and cooperation, spouses can build a lasting and meaningful life together. Now, and so this book is going to talk at length about the importance of embracing the role that Allah Ta'ala has given you in your marriage. If you're a husband, that is the role of being the provider for your family and being in a role or being in a place of authority, any leadership role. And for the woman, that's going to be someone who is responsible for the domestic well-being of her household. And he's going to touch upon these things throughout the book as well. But these things require cooperation. First, they require us to embrace this as a familial framework and structure that has been sent down by Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Right? This is what Allah Ta'ala has legislated for the man. This is what Allah Ta'ala has legislated for the woman. And Allah Ta'ala is Hakimun Alimun. He is the all-wise and He is the all-knowledgeable. And so therefore, these roles, they have great benefit as they come from one who is all-wise and all-knowledgeable, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first part of that is accepting that and not rejecting it, right? And not coming with a Western attitude that disrupts the role that Allah Ta'ala has legislated for you in the relationship. And the second part of that is to cooperate with one another to help each other fulfill that role, because both of these roles, whether it's the role of the husband or the wife, requires an immense amount of sacrifice. And it can't be done without help and support. And spouses have to be sources of help and support, aid and assistance one for another. And it shouldn't be the case where they are siloed, where each of them are kind of doing their own thing, handling their own responsibilities, and they don't receive any kind of support from their spouse as it relates to them carrying the burden of their individual responsibilities. They have to aid and support each other, as Allah Ta'ala commands, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. Cooperate with one another. This is a command. Have mutual cooperation upon righteousness and piety. وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. And do not cooperate with one another upon sin and transgression. Now, and this is how a lasting and meaningful life is built with your spouse. And now our brother Abu Suhayla, hafidhahullah, he's going to bring the statement of Imam Ibn Qayyim, who died in the year 751. And this statement of Ibn Qayyim is going to last for about 4 pages, right? So he's quoting Ibn Qayyim at length here. And what you're going to read here from Ibn Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, is a deep meditation on how difficulties and hardships in life refine us. They refine our character, and they give us spiritual transformation, right? So they both refine us religiously and spiritually as well. And so this is something that is not just applicable to your marriage, what Imam Ibn Qayyim mentions here, but this is something that is applicable throughout life, right? As it relates to hardships and difficulties that you're going to face inevitably in your life. And all of us are going to face hardships and difficulties. So what kind of attitude are we supposed to have? How are we supposed to respond to these hardships and difficulties? And what is the wisdom? What is the wisdom behind why Allah Ta'ala has ordained these hardships and difficulties to occur in our lives, right? So again, marriage requires hard work. And so consider your marriage when you're listening to these words of Ibn al-Qayyim. And if you're in a difficult spot in your marriage where things, there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of discord, there's a lot of difficulty and hardship, then meditate on these words of Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, who says that it has been established by his wisdom, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that happiness, bliss, and comfort can only be reached through the bridge of hardship and toil. The bridge of hardship and toil. They can only be entered through the gates of difficulty, patience, and enduring hardships. Yani happiness and bliss and comfort can only be entered into through the gates of difficulty, patience, and enduring hardships. Likewise, he said, rahimahullah, all rational people unanimously agree on the virtue of exerting effort to achieve perfection, such as acquiring beneficial knowledge, performing righteous deeds, cultivating virtuous character, and seeking the approval of those whose praise is meaningful. Whoever exerts more effort in acquiring these qualities is in a better state and of a higher rank. He said, likewise, they commend striving to achieve wealth, honor, and nobility, while condemning those who remain idle in these pursuits, attributing to them, meaning those who are idle in pursuing lofty goals like wealth and honor and nobility, of course, halal, permissible wealth, without ghulu, without excessiveness, right? Those who refrain, yani, or those who remain idle in those pursuits, those noble pursuits, they attribute to them a lowly spirit, a degraded soul, and a diminished status. As the saying goes, leave the noble pursuits, do not rise for their pursuit, and sit, for you are occupied by food and clothing. In other words, that line of poetry is a disparagement against a person who sits by idly, who remains idle in getting up and pursuing lofty goals in life, because he doesn't want to encounter any kinds of hardships and difficulties. So he just sits by, right? He sits by and he's lazy and he's idle, right? That type of person was viewed by the people of the past as having a lowly spirit, a degraded soul, a diminished status, because they don't want to get up and go and do the work that's required to achieve these lofty goals. He continues and he says, this effort and toil require enduring pain, suffering, and hardships, which are the paths to attaining those perfections. They do not criticize the wisdom of the one who endures these challenges, nor do they regard them as futile. On the contrary, this is, in their view, accurate intelligence, meaning the one who toils and the one who endures pain and suffering, the one who goes out and endures all of these hardships in order to attain these lofty goals, right? The one who faces these challenges head on, then this type of individual has accurate intelligence. They are right-minded individuals, in other words. Whoever instructs others to do so is wise in their guidance, while anyone who forbids such efforts is a fool and an enemy. This last sentence speaks directly to the people that you take as companions. Whoever instructs others to do so is wise in their guidance. In other words, you need to have friends who are wise in their guidance. If you seek their counsel as it relates to marriage, then they need to be people who are advising you to deal with the hardship, to be patient, to toil through it, to struggle through it, that life is going to have its challenges and difficulties, but the more effort you exert and the more hardship you go through, the greater the reward, right? They're going to remind you about the chapter, the subchapter title. Anything valuable requires hard work. Your marriage is valuable, so it requires hard work. So whoever is instructing you to go after your goals, your lofty, halal, permissible goals in life, and to sacrifice for them and to struggle for them, whoever is advising you with that kind of advice, that's good advice, and they are wise in the guidance that they're offering you. But anyone who forbids such efforts is a fool and an enemy. In other words, whoever's telling you to just go ahead and give up, it's not worth the effort, right? You don't have to be patient. You've been patient enough. If you're receiving this kind of bad advice, specifically because this is a marriage class, and again, the words of Ibn Qayyim here, rahimahullah, they're general to the issues of hardships and difficulty in life, and how we have to go through them, because those hardships and those difficulties, that is the bridge. That is the bridge that we must cross in order to get to happiness, bliss, and comfort. So specifically as it relates to our marriages, if we have people who are telling us to just give up, right? Give up easily. We don't need to be patient, etc., etc. We're receiving bad advice from our companions, then that person is advising us with that which is in contradiction to these words of Ibn Qayyim. Anyone who forbids such efforts, meaning forbids the efforts of meeting the challenge head on, of making those sacrifices, of seeking after longevity in your relationship, of sacrificing for your relationship, of struggling for your relationship. Anyone who's telling you to go ahead and just give up and they're giving you bad marital advice, that person is a fool and an enemy. They're not a friend, but they're an enemy. So this really speaks directly to the point of, who do you take your marital advice from? And this is something for brothers and sisters. Who do you seek counsel from? Are you asking that brother or that sister who's been married 7, 8, 9, 10 times, and none of those marriages have lasted longer than a few months? And that's the person that you're seeking advice from with regard to your marriage and how to get through difficult times? Or are you seeking the advice from seasoned veterans who've been in a relationship? Allah has granted them longevity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed them with something of patience and endurance. They've been through some things together as a couple. They've been through dark times as a couple. They were able to get through it. Are you seeking the counsel of these types of individuals who can give you that kind of right-minded guidance that Ibn Qayyim calls accurate intelligence? Now, and we'll begin this next statement of Imam Ibn Qayyim. He said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has concealed the greatest pleasures behind various hardships, making them a bridge to those pleasures. He said, likewise, he has concealed the greatest pains behind desires and pleasures, making them a bridge to those pains. And for this reason, all rational individuals agree that bliss is not attained through ease, and comfort is not